Hey guys, it's Ira. Uh, August 18th, Monday. We went to the usual park for breakfast. It's called Laprelle Park. And the crows did come. It was a little different today. I had to go looking for them to find them, and I saw some of them out under a tree a ways away, and I coaxed them over, and they kind of slowly came over. Some of them came right over and practically followed me, kind of. And we started giving them some food, and while we were feeding them, one of them that was up in a tree nearby let out like a rapid succession of loud caws, and everybody just scattered. All the crows just, right as that call came out, scattered. And then out of nowhere, something like a big raptor just swooped down at the crows. I think it might have been a prairie falcon. He didn't get anybody, but it was interesting. The crows pretty much immediately, the falcon swept and missed and then landed on a branch, and then the crows just immediately regrouped around the falcon and started kind of harassing him until they chased him off, and some of them even followed him to where he went and kept harassing him. And I kind of walked down to the edge of the little creek and kept an eye on the falcon for a while, so the crows would hopefully feel comfortable to come back and eat. And after a minute or so, I turned around and started heading back to the shelter, and some of the crows had returned and Nikki was feeding them, I think. And but then the falcon swooped down again, like in that short time that I turned my back to walk the short distance to the shelter. So he was like waiting for me, I guess, to do that. And then they went through pretty much the same process again, chased him off again, and then we all just kind of kept an eye on him during the whole time we were feeding while he was a ways away. And that was interesting to see that process. That you hear that they're intelligent animals, and I believe it. It was it seemed like they had like kind of a sentry or security thing going, and then they immediately responded to that call, and then immediately just went on like a counter offensive. And so that was kind of interesting to see. And they seem to be getting more and more trusting, getting closer for longer. And so be interesting to see what happens with that. There was a little girl that wandered over by the shelter. There's bathrooms kind of on the side or back of it, kind of, and the mom noticed she had made her way all the way to the shelter where we were, and she was like chiding her pretty badly. And then as soon as we ended up leaving, she went straight to the shelter with her kids and then went to the bathroom. It's like, I think they I don't know, it seemed like she didn't trust us or something, and so I guess we look maybe more like hobos than we think. I don't know. But we later we were going to the library at the university to do some work, and we got some photos of prairie dogs. I guess that was probably after that, but we did get some photos of prairie dogs and videos, and some of those are online. They're just right by the road, pretty much, in this one spot on the university, and they're interesting critters. But you can get pretty close to them, at least in your car, and they just have some interesting behaviors, and so that was cool to get that. We took the free bus to the library from the satellite parking. I was hoping to find that book I had looked at before, the Upper Yukon Wilderness, about, it was basically a journal of this mountain sheep hunters time up there, but I couldn't find it. Maybe it got checked out. I don't know. I doubt it, because I looked at the history on it. It still had the checkout history, which I guess maybe they probably stopped stamping that a while ago, but the ones that are stamped, they're pretty few and far between. So I picked out a couple others. I want to try to start reading at least a little bit of some books while we're there, because it can be an amazing resource, these university libraries. I've talked about this before. It's not like your regular public libraries that are mostly just a bunch of fiction or just a small section of nonfiction that's not really that great. There's just stellar books in there, and there's over 1 million of them in this library. The ones I picked out, they didn't turn out to be anything that I was particularly interested in. One was about John Bunyan, and I guess there's basically like kind of John Bunyan scholars. He wrote the Pilgrim's Progress. He was like a Christian in the 1600s in England, and I think part of what he did was call out the Church of England for their flaws. This was already after the Reformation, a break from Rome Catholic. So, and I will say the English Church's break from Rome was separate from the Reformation, because that's an interesting topic that I'll probably touch on at some point, and probably multiple times. But the English Church, the Church of England, was Catholic, as was everybody before every Christian before the Reformation, except the Orthodox in 1054, the schism. But that is, I think, not a well-known fact, that the Reformation didn't make the Church of England not Catholic. They were more like the Eastern Orthodox. They didn't see why they had to be subject to the Bishop of Rome as a head bishop, because the idea of a head bishop having the ultimate authority was never really a thing. Based on the study I've seen, yes, Peter was originally, considered the rock, but it was more of he didn't carry more weight in the the Pope of Rome, I should say, or Bishop of Rome, like Peter and Paul didn't carry more weight in these great councils and stuff. They were equal, and at some point it just became that the Bishop of Rome, aka the Pope, was the ultimate authority, and there was a lot of corruption. There definitely was, and I think that was why Martin Luther did what he did, and it needed to be done. And I don't think he threw out as much of Catholicism as people might think, based on what I've studied. It's just over time, Protestants had become more and more anti-Catholic. There's actually a thing called the Oxford movement that occurred in England in the early 1800s, and it was basically about saying, everyone was Catholic before 1054, and everyone other than Eastern Orthodox was Catholic before 1546, I think it was. I can't remember. So this Reformation and this break from England didn't mean we're no longer essentially the same. Our practices aren't the same. There's the big thing with the Catholics is the sacraments, and the Orthodox for that matter. I think they may call them the mysteries, but the 7 sacraments, like the Eucharist, or ordaining bishops and things. These are a big deal. That there's evidence these things in the Bible and after the Bible, these things were passed down from Christ to the disciples themselves. So anyway, I don't want to go too far on that, but John Bunyan, the book I read about him, and I didn't really find much in there that I thought I might. The title said something about English dissension or something, and I thought it might pertain to Rome versus England, but I wasn't aware when I picked it up in what time frame exactly John Bunyan lived in, so it was more about him challenging, I think, some of the Church of England stuff. But it was kind of interesting. It did talk some about how he dealt with depression. It seems like this guy and other people have done like psychological analysis of his writings and John Bunyan's writings and determined he was depressed. But it's like they weren't like faulting him or anything. They were just kind of noting that and talking about how in his writings it shows how he kind of dealt with that and overcame that and stuff. The other book was something like a doctor, Stories of a Country Doctor. And I picked that because I think the medical industry or complex or whatever you call it has just gotten so messed up. And that's been my experience. They're not doing a great service to a lot of people. They're under, constraints and profit motives and, insane premiums. I'm sure that they're paying for malpractice insurance and there's just always a new drug. That's the easiest way they probably make money and there's always new drugs that aren't tested enough. Like now we know antidepressants don't do anything. That big Newsweek article, I don't remember, year or two or something ago. Basically, biggest study on them ever. It's like, oh yeah, they don't do anything. But people are still doling them out. In fact, they have bad side effects. And I could go on that, but I won't. But that's why I picked the book, because I thought it might be interesting to see kind of the origins of the Western medical, pursuit within the 18 and 1900s. This was written in the early 1900s, but it wasn't really like that. I think it was meant to be kind of entertaining by this guy. It was like in this medical section, I think, of the library. The guy was kind of a big pompous jerk, really, it seemed to me. But it was interesting. In one part, he said he visited a family that in this had been, the book is written like 1904 or something, but I think a lot of his experiences were in the 1800s. And people, like, he talked about pioneers a lot, because I think he went out and into the frontier a lot. And he said there was a family that had basically been kind of pent up the whole winter in their cabin and just had like some salted meat and flour or something. And so they were all sick by the end of it. And he said it was basically scurvy. He said and he told them just to eat some vegetables and stuff. And it was interesting to see that, like, because they went on to do some like superstitious kind of stuff. Like they had like family traditions that have been passed down on what to do about scurvy. And so they did those things instead of eating the vegetables, like he said. And he was complaining about superstitious kind of people. But the funny thing is back then the doctor was saying vegetables, and nowadays I think you would be labeled as superstitious if you said eat vegetables instead of taking drugs. So that was interesting. Anyway, but nothing too earth-shattering in there. But what else? I whipped out a blog real quick just about that story with the crows. I thought it was kind of entertaining, and I tried to write it in a more entertaining way. I titled it "Unto the Breach. Once more my fowls," instead of my friends, like the Shakespeare quote from that play about war, because we kind of fought that falcon. Anyway, I might just start posting my blogs on Medium too, as kind of articles. We'll see, so stay tuned. We DoorDash. We made really good money for DoorDash. We made $22 per hour for the total hours spent, and then 28 per active hour, because we did have some downtime. So that was pretty exceptional. So it's very good here. We both got really tired by the end of the night. We kind of went from like 2:45 to 8:45, and we both thought maybe we were getting sick, so we took some N-acetylcysteine, which is a supplement that can help keep you from getting sick or shorten sickness. That's what research shows. And we think we've experienced that ourselves. So for a while, like in the winter, I was taking it, and I think she was taking it pretty frequent, but I was taking it almost every day. There is a downside. They tested it on mice that had cancer, and it made the tumors grow. So if we already have cancerous tumors, maybe we shouldn't be taking it, but to our knowledge, we don't. So we do use it some. I think we may need to get multivitamin. That scurvy story reminded me of that, because we do not eat much fresh fruits and vegetables, and so at least should get a multivitamin. And probably, in that new evidence and a big study shows that multivitamins do actually, in fact, help prevent I think it was like all-cause mortality by a significant amount, and even help with preventing dementia. So, but speaking of getting tired, the older I get, the more I want to do more to kind of redeem the time, but I also discover more what my limits are. You know, when you're in your 20s, I pushed myself really hard in my 20s in different ways, and I could do a lot. I could get by on very little sleep, and I did discover some limits then, but now it's like you can't push yourself like that. Now you don't recover from things as quickly. But it's humbling, it's sobering, but you have no other choice than to just do that or give up. In the movie, the Shawshank Redemption, the character Andy Dufresne says, "You got to get busy living, or you got to get busy dying." And I think that's kind of true, in a sense. Either you're going to grow, do what you can to grow as much as you can, or you're just going to shrink and die. I had a sunburn last week in the mountains, and today it's kind of blistered and weepy. It does not hurt. I put a ton of aloe on it back when I first got it, and but I've never had that because I don't ever take my shirt off, but I had it off a lot up there, and my back is slightly blistered and weepy. I thought I was sweating, but I realized at one point it wasn't that. So anyway, praying that heals up well. We're planning on going to the mountains again, maybe tomorrow if we feel up to it, because it's going to be hot here for a few days. Not humid, nothing like Kansas City or the east of this area, but still we thought we might do that again just to get some mountain time, and then maybe hit work extra on Friday, Saturday, Sunday or something. So I'll stay covered this time and not overdo my hikes and stuff. But I guess that is all I have here. I'm going to try to keep blogging, doing the written blog every day, and doing some more guitar lessons. I plan on posting another beginner lesson tomorrow. I took some of the video today, and it just didn't turn out while I was dashing, and it didn't turn out to be convenient to record the rest of it. It's going to be a real short, simple video, but so I'm going to hopefully finish that tomorrow morning, and then while we're in the mountains, I can write blogs and vlog notes offline, and then when we come back, I can put them up, and you guys can enjoy them, and that, I guess, is it. So I'm sorry if there was a little background noise. There's a red light because there's someone in an RV next to us. We're in a public parking lot. There were some guys right next to us, some young men who were having car trouble. I think they had parked their cars while they went and did something. One guy was dropping the other off, and then I think his car wouldn't start or something, so they opened their hoods and did stuff, and now they've left. So they were a little loud and shining their lights around, which, I guess they didn't think about the fact that there's RVs with people sleeping in them here, but that's what it is to be 21 or whatever they are. A little oblivious or whatever. So I can't think of anything else at the moment. So I'm tired. That doesn't help. I bought some t-shirts so I can have some good coverage on my blisters, and some cheap, undershirts. But anyway, until the next time, I appreciate you guys giving me your time and attention, and I hope you're following your adventures too. All right, we'll see you soon. Thanks.